Let's break down the ways in which content can be added to an existing game from smallest to largest. There are, as far as I'm concerned, 5 levels. 1. The microtransaction. A buck or two for skins here and there, or emotes or loot boxes, or in single-player games, stuff like items or just things that can make the game easier. You know, first you pay to play the game and then you pay more to not play it. This is the most worrying trend in the industry, but we're not here to talk about that today. Number 2. DLC. This can mean a lot, but the DLC that I'm talking about takes the form of new chapters or areas to play through that are mostly like the main game, but smaller and usually not plot critical. The best examples would be Dead Money in New Vegas, or Honest Hearts in New Vegas, or Old World Blues from Fallout New Vegas 2010, and Lonesome Road from, maybe not. Number 3. The expansion pack. These are very rare these days, and it kind of feels like a relic from the classic 90s PC game era. This is huge DLC. You've probably seen this meme that's already pretty old by now, of the Mona Lisa comparing DLC to expansion packs. Maybe this one involving burgers. Basically, that's an expansion pack. Number 4. The standalone expansion. Mini sequels, basically. What the expansion pack sort of evolved into. It's pretty much a massive DLC that is sold totally independently from the original game. You don't have to own it at all. Usually reusing assets and altering a few of them, and usually, but not always, cheaper. Like Far Cry Blood Dragon, probably the best example. Other examples would be Spider-Man Miles Morales, Halo 3 ODST, and what do you know, Subnautica Below Zero. Number 5. The sequel. Duh. A total follow-up to the original, new assets, new mechanics, new story, and it's considered its own distinct game. I think we all know what a sequel is. I don't think I need to give examples of a sequel. Tak and the Power of Juju 2. Anyway, that was my game presentation. Thank you for listening. Yeah, it was probably a waste of time, but I brought it up so I could talk about number 4. I think I'm totally over the standalone expansion. Either make it DLC, or make it a sequel. And the game that turned me around on this concept was Subnautica Below Zero. And if you haven't picked up on my annoyed tone yet, I don't like this game. I wanted to like it. I wanted to love this game for years. I didn't play it during its early access phase because I wanted to wait for it to be complete. I didn't look up any of the Leviathans. I didn't look up any spoilers. I was so ready to have Subnautica again, and I did not get that. In 2018, for some reason, I felt strongly compelled to make a top 10 games of the year video, and my game of the year for that year was Subnautica. And looking back, it was not even close. I loved it. The way it combined genres into a totally unique experience, the way it perfected the pacing of the survival game, to the point where I don't even want to bother with other survival games anymore. The way it exploited a powerful phobia that we all share so severely that some people consider it straight up unplayable, in a good way. It's great. They had something really special here, and they should have released DLC and been done with it, but they didn't. They released a $30 standalone sequel, and I'm going to talk about it today. It is, on some level, not very cool to get super upset about a $30 game, so I'm not going to get super upset, and I'm not really that upset. But what's bad about it? Well, let me put it this way. Name a good thing about Subnautica, and that same thing in Below Zero is worse. But I'm already kind of sick of saying the word Subnautica, so let's come up with some shorthand before this video goes any further. This is called Sub 1. This is called BZ. Sub 1, BZ. Sub 1, BZ. Okay, so what does Sub 1 do well? Well, let's keep it short and talk about the 5 things. The main 5 things. Here's 5 things. Survival, exploration, creature and world design, horror, and story. Or, Cicads. Survival. Sub 1 is a survival game so brutal it makes Don't Starve look like Don't Wake Daddy. The world wants you dead, and there are many ways you can die. Getting eaten, getting stabbed, getting exploded, being leeched, burning alive, being gassed, being poisoned, starving to death, dying of thirst.
And drowning, don't forget drowning.
Studies have shown that drowning is like the most horrible way to die.
What's the best?
I heard stomach cancer.
I think that's true.
But this is all stuff that makes the game really fun. It's my favorite survival game. And slowly conquering your surroundings and turning from an ocean baby to an ocean man, it's just the best. BZ, on the other hand, is not a good survival game. It is technically a survival game, but I don't think it wants to be one.
This is the farthest that I can take you on company space bucks, Robin. You sure you want this? The research is in everything.
It is to me. And Sam. I need to know what happened.
Survival games are a little less fun when the reason the main character is in peril is her own fault! Okay, we'll talk about the story later, but that is a thing. Luckily for Robin, it is a lot easier to survive in this game. Look, there are oxygen plants scattered everywhere. In all relevant free dive locations, there's almost always a plant nearby to give you a gulp of air. Can't have our player risk drowning in a game about drowning. In the first game, if you needed extra free diving air, you could do it. You could make and bring multiple air tanks with you. That requires forethought and planning and ingenuity, and it's kind of cool that the game lets you do that. And that kind of stuff is fun in a game like this. There's a whole section of the game where you risk freezing to death too. Naturally, there are giant radiator plants everywhere to keep you warm. And there's steam vents that keep you warm. And there's caves that keep you warm. And the water, interestingly, makes you warm again. And there are fire plants everywhere where you can just get warm. Like, at this rate, why did you even bother making hypothermia a mechanic in this game? Don't get me wrong, these plants would be cool if they just weren't everywhere. The game isn't completely trivial, but food was never scarce. I had a big roomy base and a sea truck in just a few hours, and leviathans are few and far between. It's kind of weird and strange to miss hardship and inconvenience, but like, that's the gameplay, isn't it? It's a survival game, not a live comfortably game. But hey, at least this all makes exploration a little easier. Sub 1 is absolutely massive, and the only thing more interesting than the world itself is the clever way the game slowly reveals the world to you. It's entirely open world right from the beginning, but that doesn't mean you're not soft-locked to a certain radius at first.
Warning, maximum depth reached. Hull damage imminent.
And as you explore, the world opens up to you region by region. You find more tools and gear to help you explore further and deeper, and it isn't long before you're deeper than you ever imagined. It's like Hollow Knight. The world just keeps getting deeper, just keeps going down. BZ's map is so small that I literally almost swam off the edge of the world because I couldn't believe I had already gone through the whole map in just 2 biomes. It's genuinely a fraction of the size of the original. So the expanding radius experience of the first game is totally gone. There's 2 or 3 areas that go remotely deep, but nothing in the game matches the experience of slowly making your way to the Lost River. And whenever I felt like just getting comfy and taking some peeper jerky into smart water and hopping into my sea truck and just going exploring, why not? That's the game. I rarely felt rewarded for doing so. In fact, I never felt rewarded. Usually, I just end up at the edge of the map, or butting against an iceberg, or just in some unremarkable volcano biome. Speaking of which...
Oh, let's name the zones.
BZ's creatures and locations are certainly not ugly. This is a very talented team. Nonetheless, I think they fall short in one major area. Variety. I won't show everything for the sake of spoilers, and also it'll make it easier to cherry pick, so it looks like my opinion is more right. The Twisty Bridges starting area is unique and interesting and pretty fun. And then we have the Kelp Forest, basically straight from the first game. Some big lily pad things that are pretty cool. Icy above ground areas with scientific outposts. Then we have the rocky volcanic area, and then the purple volcanic area, and then the deep purple volcanic area, and then the tree volcanic area. But you see what I'm getting at here? The game lacks variety in locations. Half of them are thermal vent areas. They all kind of blend together. Several biomes are virtually blank. If you've never played the first game, then it might seem like I'm being really picky since all of this looks fine. But let's look at the first game to compare. And if you've never played Subnautica, fair warning, you're probably about to go buy it. it's better. Same story with the creatures. Pretty much all of the fauna is cooler in the original. As a general sort of criticism, I think they leaned a little too hard on Earth animal references instead of letting these creatures be truly alien. This thing is a horrific, whale-sized predator with spidery fangs and a freakish body of pure muscle and digestive system. It's so terrifying that it's enough to get some people to turn the game off, and it turns some people on. The equivalent in BZ? That's a shrimp! I'm sorry, I'm not scared of a shrimp. There's only like 3 of these that I ever came across, and yes, they are threatening. I did try to avoid them, but they're never scary. They're shrimp. They can be defeated with a bowl of melted butter, and last I checked, grilled shrimp is keto! But this game never left me terrified, and that wouldn't be a problem if the first game wasn't.
This ecological biome matches 7 of the 9 preconditions for stimulating terror in humans.
That was real, by the way. I did not stage that. I was in creative mode, I had cheats enabled, and I literally set myself invisible to predators. And this game still managed to find a way to scare the shit out of me. Whatever, I lost my train of thought. I don't even know what to talk about. There's nothing in the follow-up that's even remotely as scary as this game. Speaking of recording footage, I was trying to get footage of the Leviathan in the last segment, in Below Zero, and I actually had a really hard time even finding one. I swam around the areas where I know that they live, and I couldn't find it. I was literally begging the game to scare me, and it wouldn't. Maybe they toned down the horror to make it a little more accessible, or maybe they just wanted to streamline everything so that they could more easily tell their stupid story. Oh look, what an amazing segue.
Made it to 4546B. Landing was a bit rough, but I don't think they spotted me.
First, let's have an extensive refresher of the plot of the first game. Subnautica takes place on an uncolonized ocean planet in the far reaches of the intergalactic future, populated by corporate trans-governments such as Altera, a massive and not uncontroversial corporation-government hybrid entity. The planet is known simply as Planet 4546b. Not much is known about the planet, but what we come to find out is that 1,000 years ago... Hey, you know what? None of this matters. What do you, the player, want to get out of a game like this? It's a survival game and an exploration game, so you want to be challenged to survive and be free to explore. That's what you want to do. That's what's fun. Well, what a coincidence. That's Riley, the main character's motivation. The writing in the first game is really fascinating. There's a really solid narrative that unfolds, which I won't spoil, and there's a mountain of interesting lore, but that's not the main plot of the game. The main plot is the narrative of you overcoming the odds and escaping the planet, and whatever happens during this narrative is part of it. Every base you build, every sub you build and name and lose to a Reaper, every dumbass decision you made, like taking your prawn suit into a trench and getting it stuck down there. Yeah, I did that. That stuff is the story. Riley wants to escape. To do that, he has to survive and explore. Riley's motivations are in perfect harmony with yours. That is the strength of the medium of video games, when the player having fun and the story unfolding are the same action. Robin is trapped on this planet too, but like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't an accident. She wasn't shipwrecked, she went here willingly to find out what happened to her sister. Not to perform a daring rescue of her sister, not to uncover some vital information needed to save the world, she just wanted to know for closure. Robin. She went missing on a terrifying ocean planet full of giant predators. What do you think happened?
Jeez, hope that was stomach cancer.
Well, spoilers, that's not what happened, but it's not any better, and it's not exactly my point. Robin is not a bad character exactly. I like her, she's plucky and fun, maybe a little too girl boss, but whatever. But her motivation is all wrong. Never at any time is she concerned with escaping or surviving.
Well, Sam, I guess I might as well gather some tools and resources before starting my search.
And consequently, the game isn't concerned with giving you that experience either. They wanted this game to be a first-person action-adventure game, you can tell, but they were chained to the format of the original game. Instead of working another man or woman versus nature survival conflict into Below Zero, they just wanted to take what would have probably worked better as an extended universe spin-off novel and jam it into the format anyway. The story beats in Below Zero are like a checklist of experiencing the narrative. Go here, scan this thing that's necessary for the plot, and then you're done and you can go somewhere else. All any of these missions accomplish is that you have more of the story completed. Great. Looking at the first game, usually when you're directed to go somewhere, it serves you directly. The other life pods that you get directed to, they leave you tech and recipes to increase your survival skills. Going to the Aurora to stop the radiation leak leads you to a treasure trove of scannable items, a depth module, and of course, the best thing in the whole game, the prawn suit. The story, for the most part, serves the gameplay. It's not just a book where you have to fight to turn the pages. All that being said, I do kinda like Alan.
Oh no. Does your kind perceive a boundary between cybernetic and organic components?
My mind is not a component!
You sound angry. We will allow you a moment to process.
We will allow you a moment to cope and seethe. What a smug bastard, I love him. Doing this quest was more interesting, and I almost wish the sister plot was dropped entirely. And hey, maybe Robin gets stranded there in a new and interesting way. Maybe a way that's not her own dumb idea. And maybe this ancient alien is helping you navigate your escape while you help him with something. Or maybe just keep Riley around. What's wrong with him? He's a little goony, but whatever. Maybe just branch this story off from the first game and make the polar area an optional area accessible through an ancient teleportation gate he discovers or something. Also, this way we can enter the area fully equipped and we can skip having to establish some of the early game survival stuff, which you can tell they really wanted to skip anyway. And then we can just explore this world in a better context. You know, kinda like a DLC! That's what this should have been, and it all comes down to the standalone expansion. I don't think this was the right idea. And leaving it as a downloadable new area interlinked with the first game would have been the better choice. The ice world was always the main attraction of Below Zero anyway, and Robin and her story was just a catalyst to get there. And losing that really wouldn't hurt the experience much, I have to be honest here. I guess I'm a misogynist. Sorry, Robin. It's not my fault your story's worse. Also, like, the story isn't even good. Like, if it was good, I don't think I would have cared about all that ludonarrative whatever stuff. But it's not good. It's actually kind of bad. Okay, this segment has to go fast. We really have to wrap this up. The Sea Truck C sucks. I get what they were doing with this. They were combining the Cyclops and the Sea Moth into one modular vehicle. Since the world is so small, you'll never really need a Cyclops. And it's neat, but did they have to make it so slow? I think they slowed your main submersible down so you wouldn't notice how small the map is, but it's too bad, I still noticed. And the modular thing was too grindy for me to ever bother with anyway. I never crafted most of the choo-choo train cars. The underwater areas didn't really feel all that Arctic. I mean, I guess I didn't know what I expected. It's not like it would snow underwater. Maybe, I don't know, give up 1 or 2 of the 4 volcanic areas in the game? Because they made the whole game feel kinda hot. A lot of the mandatory recipes in this game are not for something cool that you want to use. It's just for something arbitrarily necessary that you have to use once for the story. For example, you have to go out of your way to build and use a penguin drone for exactly 1 mandatory item in the game, and I can't imagine wanting to use this stupid thing for any other reason. It doesn't even show Robin controlling it when you look at her. Come on, get it together! The game is still really buggy, and the pop-in is terrible, and sometimes the environment doesn't pop in at all. And the biggest nitpick of all, why isn't it called Subnautica Sub-Zero? It's the obvious name! After writing all of this, I looked at the Steam reviews, and it seems like a lot of people agree with me on all of this, although most people still give it the blue thumbs up, resulting in a score that I think is a little overinflated. But you know what? Good for them. I don't want to hate on this game too much, because Subnautica is a great game, and this is just more Subnautica, right? Except it's not. You get this game by itself, so it's not more Subnautica, it's less! And that is why I am over the standalone expansion as a concept. It should go the way of the episodic game. Well, Well, I guess one good thing about standalones is that you can trade them in. Yeah, aw. Anyway, there's better, longer videos about Below Zero, so I'll end it here. I guess my final thought is that Subnautica Below Zero is just watered down. And it's not very deep. Hey, you want to see one of the many moments where I almost just dropped this game?
You sound angry. We will allow you a moment to process.
What you know about rolling down in the deep when